as we go behind the scenes of this year's most anxiously awaited sequel. Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg reassembled the cast they put together 4 years ago to create Back to the Future Part 2.
Mark, action.
Back to the Future Part 2 begins where Back to the Future 1 left off.
You've got to come back with me.
Where?
Back to the future.
Hi. Information about the future can be very powerful. And if it falls into the wrong hands, it can affect the world, which it does in this movie. They've slipped up and they've caused events to be altered very negatively. And they have to go back and repair the damage.
Mom, I just want to know one thing. Where's my father? Where's George McFly?
Marty, George, your father is in the same place he's been for the past 12 years. Oak Park Cemetery.
Marchy McFly, Marchy McFly. Year 6 of Marchy McFly. Ready or not, Year 6 of Marchy McFly. I'm back, great Scott. It's year 6. 31 straight days for you. In year 6. It's Back to the Future Part 2. Every day. Gonna have a little talk of Marty and Doc. 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 Happy Monday. It's Monday, March 16th, the 16th day of Marchy McFly. Yes, here for the 16th day in a row, I am talking about 3 minutes and 20 seconds of Back to the Future Part 2. And as much as I try to focus on just that 3 minutes and 20 seconds of just that movie, there is something today in the Back to the Future world that I wanted to discuss. Because today we lost a member of the Back to the Future family. My wife was looking at her phone and she just said the words to me, "An actor from Back to the Future died," and I was at my desk working and my stomach went, "No, what, who, what?" And to be honest with you, I never thought it was, Christopher Lloyd or Michael J. Fox, honestly, and I feel bad thinking this, but my first thought went to 94-year-old James Tolkien, of course, Mr. Strickland. But it wasn't him. Actually, this was an actor that was only in Back to the Future Part 3.
What'll it be, stranger? I'll have ice water.
Ice?
Water? You want water, you better go dunk your head in the horse trough out there. In here, we pour whiskey.
Matt Clark, who played the bartender in Back to the Future Part 3, what'll it be, stranger, passed away yesterday on March 15th at the age of 89 from complications of a spinal surgery. So that is unfortunate. But he did live a long life, 89 years old, and had 5 children, 3 wives. I mean, he lived a full life. I look at his IMDb, and he's been acting all the way back to 1964, where he played a mugger in a movie called Black Like Me. I haven't seen that movie. but he's been, in a bunch of TV show episodes. In the Heat of the Night, the movie version, I'm going through real quick, in the 70s, like what have I heard of? Bonanza, an episode of Bonanza. Let's keep going. I mean, just tons of stuff that I don't really know. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid from 1973. I mean, I don't know if that's the famous movie of Billy the Kid. I mean, there's been so many. He was in an episode of The Waltons, an episode of Kung Fu. He played Charlie Perlmutter in Melvin Purvis G-Man, 1974 TV movie. I don't know, it just had my dad's first name in it, so it stopped me in my IMDb scrolling. The Outlaw Josie Wales. Okay, that was a very well-known movie that I haven't seen, but it's very well known. Let's keep going. Little House on the Prairie, 3 episodes. Maybe I saw him there. I mean, he has a face. He's definitely a character actor that you might recognize. It's like maybe I know him mostly from Back to the Future Part 3, but then again, maybe I've seen him in other things that I don't even realize it. Not yet, though, based on what I'm looking at. 2 episodes of Dynasty. No, I didn't see that. He played Stuart Hiller in Tough Turf in 1985, an episode of Magnum P.I. He played Uncle Henry in Return to Oz, the 1985 Wizard of Oz sequel that I hear is crazy, but I've never actually seen it. He was in Kenny Rogers as the Gambler Part 3, playing Sergeant Grinder. Let's keep going. House 3. Nope. Okay, Back to the Future Part 3, Bartender. Boom. That's again, probably what I know him from then, because anything before that, maybe he just has one of those faces that seems familiar even when it isn't. A Seduction in Travis County in 1991. Dead Before Dawn, not Evil Dead 2, that's Dead by Dawn. Barbarians at the Gate, I remember that as being a movie on TV. He played Homeless Man on Lois and Clark. Grace Under Fire, he had 4 episodes. They said, I saw an article. It said he's maybe best known for Grace Under Fire and Back to the Future Part 3. So he played 4 episodes of Grace Under Fire. And I guess that's his most well-known thing. Candyman Farewell to Flesh, that's got to be one of the sequels, right? I never saw that. 12 episodes of the Jeff Foxworthy Show. You'd think that maybe he'd be more known for that because he was in 12 episodes of it. I mean, there were 41 full episodes. I think Grace Under Fire was probably on longer. Trilogy of Terror 2. There was a second one. Touched by an Angel, The Pretender, The Practice. I'm going to keep going. Chicago Hope. He was he played a character in a Pac-Man video game. Walker, Texas Ranger. 3 episodes of that. And the last thing he was in, he played a prospector in the Seth MacFarlane A Million Ways to Die in the West, which coincidentally also has Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown, which I wonder if I'd like this movie. I think I remember seeing a preview thinking to myself that I would find it funny and enjoy it. I could take Seth MacFarlane sometimes more than others. Like, I haven't watched Family Guy in a million years, but at the same time, I loved The Orville, which was kind of funny, but also just like really good as a sci-fi show, like way better than you'd think it would be. But anyway, that was the last thing he acted in. That's in 2014. So IMDb says he's best known for Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Did I say that already? Jeremiah Johnson, The Outlaw Josie Wales, and Back to the Future Part 3. So rest in peace, Matt Clark. Thank you for, helping with that remedy when Doc drank a full sip of one whole drink and passed out. You definitely helped him out and allowed him to, and Marty, to save the day. But you know what? That's next year. Let's not focus on Back to the Future 3 until next March. You know it's coming. But we're not there right now. We're still back on Back to the Future 2. Let's talk about the next 3 minutes and 20 seconds where Marty finds out exactly what happened to his dad. Today, we will be covering from the 50-minute mark to 53 minutes and 20 seconds. And it picks up with Marty not understanding how the hell his mother could have left George and married Biff. And she's like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, they must have really hit you hard this time. So that means that's happened before. Marty's had multiple concussions. We saw it when Lorraine's father, struck him with the automobile. We'll see it again next year. We're seeing it in this one. I mean, they struck him on the head. They definitely, he should not be well right now. He should definitely be in concussion protocol. But he's too shook up with the fact that, first of all, she's married to Biff. Second of all, she called Biff your father. My father? And he's like, what happened? Where is my father? Where is George McFly? She's like, Marty, your father's in the same place he's been for the last 12 years. Oak Park Cemetery. Now, let's not gloss over the fact that it is 1985. And she said, your father's in the same place he's been for the last 12 years. Let's do a little math. That brings us to 1973. And do you know what else happened in 1973? She married Biff. So, what the hell? If I was on the outside looking in at this woman, and I saw this woman married to an author, I'm going to say a happy author, but maybe a struggling author, because obviously in 1985, that's when his big book is published, but he's already an author in 1973. He's already known as a local author. So maybe money isn't great, but it's still, they're happier. That's why they have the house is better. Everything's better. But it doesn't really kick off until 1985 when the new book comes out. We're talking about it's funny. They call, in the Back to the Future wiki, they call this 1985A, like the alternative 1985 or alternate 1985. But really, this should be 1985B, because the end of Back to the Future should be 1985A. That's the alternate 1985. This is the much worse alternate, but it's another alternate. So he's already an author in 1973, and he dies. He's killed. He's murdered. And then his wife shacks up with the rich casino owner the same year. Now, she doesn't look very happy in the news footage of the wedding. But if I was a local, just a local sleuth or someone with, that just reads the newspaper, you'd probably be like, what, something is fishy here. What is it? Something smells rotten in Denmark. I know that's not right. Something like that. And isn't that a Shakespeare thing? Something's rotten in Denmark. Something like that. I don't know that. Look, if you ever watch Jeopardy with me and it's like, movies starring, Bill Murray, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do really good. Then it says Shakespeare. And I'm like, if I was on Jeopardy, I'd just put my buzzer down and be like, okay, let's get through this category. I wouldn't even try to, because I'd guess Romeo, Juliet, Macbeth, Hamlet. Those are the four I know. I've heard some other ones. I couldn't tell you what they do. Othello, I know it's a board game, but also he's a Shakespearean character. But Rotten in Denmark, I think, is some sort of Shakespeare thing or some sort of literary comment. Look, again, I'm putting myself, I'm going on a tangent that's showing my limited capacity of knowledge. But let's swing it back to what I'm focusing on, and that's George McFly getting killed in 1973, and then his wife, his ex-wife, his widow, marrying basically what at one time was his boss. They don't work together anymore. Obviously, he never worked for Biffco. I'm assuming he's an author. But wouldn't you think someone would think that there's something fishy? It's not like he died of a heart attack. It's not like he fell off a ladder. He was murdered. And again, the only thing I could think of is that Biff is so in control of the media and the police, and he has all of them in his back pocket, including Mayor Goldie Wilson. Again, I still think it would have been cool if they had some sort of interaction between Goldie Wilson and Biff. We never see an older Goldie Wilson in action. We only see him on the side of a van. I wonder if, like, I don't think I've ever even seen like a deleted episode, anything showing a Goldie Wilson, but there should have been something with Goldie Wilson with Biff, arguing with him. Maybe he's trying to be clean and like he's trying to do the right thing, and Biff's like, "You want to stay in power? You want to be reelected? You do as I say," or something like that. Something like that. Missed opportunity. But again, Biff's obviously paying them all off, because wouldn't you think that something's going on, the fact that he's murdered, and she basically mourns for like 5 seconds and then goes and gets Frenched by Biff on camera at his third wedding. And then like what did she, like, was she so distraught that she's like, this is how I'm going to take care of my kids, by doing this? So obviously George didn't have any life insurance. Just the whole thing screams really rotten when you really think about it. This is the darkest timeline for Marty and for Lorraine, I guess, and for George too, because he's the dead one. The only one who it really is looking up for is Biff and Biff's cronies. So if March had 30 days, I think I would have had to have, I definitely would have had to calculate the amount of show to make that adjustment. And if that was the case, maybe part of this scene would have been here yesterday, and it really would have lined up perfectly, because yesterday was March 15th, and the next scene we see after Marty has this really cool like look in his eyes, like of shock when Lorraine says it. Marty goes to the cemetery, and it says, "In loving memory, George Douglas McFly, born April 1st, 1938, died March 15th, 1973. Yes, yesterday would have been the 53rd anniversary of George McFly's death in the alternate timeline. If nothing happened and George was still alive today, he would be 88 years old. Am I looking? Oh, April 1st. No, he wouldn't be. He'd be 87. Interesting. So it's always with sevens at the end. He'd be turning 88 on April 1st. A lot of, 17, 47, that seems to be the, and now this would have been, am I doing the math right? Wait a minute. If he's 47 in 1985, that's 40 years ago. Yeah, 87, 88. So the current year is of course 2026. I do know that. I looked it up today, and I'm positive it is 2026 right now, this year, as I'm saying this to you. Now maybe it's the future for you, but it can't be the past, unless of course we're so far in the future that we've now figured out how to come to the past. And if that's the case, and you're listening to this in the past, why haven't you told us that you've discovered time travel? You keeping it to yourself like Doc Brown did? So Marty is beside himself. He's like, no. He keeps saying, please, God, no, this can't be happening. Please, God, no. Like, he says it maybe one too many times, like he's waiting for someone to say cut. But all of a sudden behind him, we see a shadow. And this is a bit of a leap. But again, we're not in the cell phone era, so you just kind of have to take a guess. And all of a sudden, Doc's like, indeed, it is happening. He's right there. And Marty's like in shock that he sees me. And Doc's like, when I heard about what happened to your father, I came right here. So didn't he say he was going back to his... Okay, so wait a minute. How many hours? It's been a while. It's been... So he... I feel like Marty slept the day away. They went home. He went in the wrong house. Doc said, I'm going home to take apart the time machine. And then Marty gets bonked on the head. He's out all day, and he wakes up. It's nighttime now. And now Doc is, just timed it perfectly. Figured you'd be here at this time. He's like, I've been driving around all day waiting for you. Like, again, look, it's funny. I took my niece to physical therapy for her ankle today, and she goes, I asked her, I said, have you seen the Back to the Future? Because I always talked about Back to the Future. If you listen to like the early episodes of Marchy McFly, I talked about the time traveling boy, which was a bedtime tale that when I was babysitting my niece and nephew years ago, I told them sometimes I make up a full story, and somehow that story also came with time travel. There was a story about chicken sandwiches, and when I got to part 6, we went crazy with time travel. I actually wrote, I would tell the stories. I wrote out the 6th story like as a book. But anyway, she saw Back to the Future, the musical last year. She's into musicals and is into, doing theater and stuff. So she loved that. And I said, have you seen all of them? This was today because she saw my shirt. I'm wearing a Back to the Future shirt that I got at Kohl's yesterday. She said, have you seen them all? Or how? She goes, I saw the first 2. I saw some of the third one, but I got bored. It wasn't for me. And I realized, yeah, maybe the Old West stuff, and I go, I like the third one better than the second one. She goes, I like the second one. And I thought, you know what? When I was your age, I loved the second one too. And maybe it's just the excitement of seeing these things in the quote unquote future. The funny thing was, it was still the future for us. For her, it was, 11 years ago. And that's got to be a fun thing too, for her to be like, this was never the future. It still looks like the achievable future. That's why it's still fun to watch. Anyway, that's my long way of saying that as much as I adored this movie as a kid, I'm picking it apart a little more as a quote unquote adult. And part of that is Doc just found him perfectly. I figured you'd come here. I checked the casino for again, it's just for the convenience of the story. I figured you'd come here. Okay, that, I guess, let's just cut that and make that work. I don't know. I do have to say, though, as I'm watching this scene and Marty's like, then he goes, then you know what happened? You know what happened on March 15th, 1973? And Doc's like, yes, Marty, indeed I know. Some great acting right there. I'm not gonna like Doc, when Doc is quiet and just kind of standing there and has just looks like uncomfortable or just sad. I mean, Christopher Lloyd is just incredible. And you know what? There are moments in Back to the Future that I look at differently now after doing these, these examinations of these movies. And I feel like that part right there, that's going to stick with me every time I watch this movie in the future. Or the past. So he must have explained some things to Marty on the way, and then he goes back to his garage, and thankfully he did not disable the time machine, but he said, once I heard what happened, I went to the local library to try to, figure out, learn more. It was boarded up, so he broke in, and he stole a bunch of newspapers, and that newspaper we see is the Hill Valley Telegraph. That is the image of today's episode. Local author shot dead. What else do we see on that? Record 813,600 new claim for jobless benefits. Indians continue wounded knee occupation. South Dakota standoff in 16th day. I wonder if that's a little Easter egg for part 3 right there. New Watergate revelations. This is 1973, and we see a picture of George McFly. We see an actual image. It's not the different actor. It's Crispin Glover. And again, one of the reasons why Crispin Glover ended up suing, and they kind of changed the rules forever for using someone's likeness, and how people get compensated for that. So Marty's like, how did this happen? How the hell could this happen? I feel like we're in hell. And he's like, no, it's Hill Valley, but I can't imagine hell being much worse. So we hear Einstein cry a little. Doc goes over and fixes his bed. And that actually made me feel a little good, because at some point that means that, it makes me a little nervous where Einstein is now, but that means that Doc did have Einstein in this alternative 1985. I think I talked about maybe he didn't even have him, but it seems like he did, because there is a bed there. But the whole place is ransacked. And Doc's like, obviously, the time continuum has been disrupted, creating this new temporal event sequence resulting in this alternate reality. Marty's like, English, Doc.
Here. Let me illustrate. Imagine that this line represents time. There's the present, 1985, the future, and the past. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate to you, me, and Einstein, but reality for everyone else.
Okay, I have a correction. I talked about 1985A, and that's what the Futurepedia, Wikipedia, the Back to the Future Wiki called it. No. That's what Doc called it right now. On the chalkboard, he wrote down 1985A. Even though, again, Doc, 1985A, well, it's only to you. Because Marty, this is 1985B for Marty. I'm still going to stick by that. But, I always love this explanation where he just says, this is time. Someone went in the past and created this new tangent. Then he waits for his big reveal, like he explaining this, but he already knew. He already knew what it was because he goes into the DeLorean and goes, look what's in here. Even though Marty was in the DeLorean with him, he didn't explain it until he got back to the garage so that he could do it. He was like, I want to tell him, but I need the chalkboard. I need the chalkboard. So drives him back with all this in the car, goes back into the car while they're in the garage and says, look at this, pulls out the bag that had the almanac in it and the receipt, which is good because in the end, if they want to, they could go back and return it and get their money back. I always loved that little subtle thing where the receipt is a like clear blue plastic instead of paper. It's like, this is what futuristic paper will look like. Clear blue plastic. And what else is in the time machine? What else did they find in the DeLorean? But the top of Biff's cane that, he could use to walk around, but it broke pretty easy in that car. And I thought, would Marty remember that? But to him, it's just been like a day and a half since he got beamed in the head with old man Biff's cane. So yeah, of course he'd remember that. And he's like, wait, he goes, that's the top of Biff's cane. Old Biff from the future. And Marty, Doc goes, correct. It was in the time machine. And that's where our moment ends. It was in the time machine, he was going to say. But it's almost like he's smiling. And I have to think the reason he's smiling is because he knows what needs to happen now. He's figured it out because Biff was, kind of stupid and left a trail. And, well, I mean, that Biff's long gone now at this point. There's no way that Biff exists anymore. In any way whatsoever, that Biff doesn't exist. And then I remember in high school, someone said, well, if he doesn't exist, how did he ever go back in the first place? Because it's string theory, it's tangents, it's time tangents, man. It's not one linear thing. Anyway, that guy's name was Nate. And if you're listening to this, yeah, I'm talking about you. So now they know that all of this has to stem from the almanac, has to stem from Biff, and the fact that these two buffoons did not see Biff steal the time machine right out from under them. He'd be like, when did he steal it? I told you to stay with the car all this time. Well, I wandered off a bit and I thought I heard the car and then I thought I saw it flying away. Marty, you son of a bitch. And he backhands him. I told you repeatedly. He backhands him again. Don't do this. Hits him over and over. How many times did we find out that Doc has been abusing Marty for years? I told you, just go into the Cafe 80s, just say no. What did you do? It just, thank God Doc has a cool and calm demeanor, because he's not going to yell at Marty for messing up. Doc's messed up too. He messed up with Marty Jr. But he is going to, instead of blaming anybody, he now needs to figure out when exactly did this happen? When in time did this happen so they can go back and prevent it? Now, if they were paying attention, they'd be like, why does the previous time say November 12th, 1955? But as I told you, Marty and Doc, they just don't pay attention to the little details in this movie that you and I are noticing, like, don't leave the car. Don't take Jennifer out of the car. I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk about 2015, but here we are. Don't take Einstein with you. Leave Einstein with Marty, and Marty will stay with the car. But you didn't do that. And maybe turn around when you hear the car smashing into a giant dumpster. I don't know. But because of all of that, now they need to figure out, and because now the time circuits should change, and it won't say November 12th, 1955 now. It'll say, what is it, October 21st, 2015, right? I think, I don't know. I've seen these so many dates, I can't keep them straight all the time. But that date has been removed, and maybe it doesn't keep logs. You feel like it should keep, like you can go back one step. But he didn't think of that because he's like, who else is going to be using the time machine except me? So unfortunately, they have no way of finding out exactly when Biff went back and gave himself the almanac. Unless the one person who does know remembers and is dumb enough to tell them. But that doesn't happen today. No. We'll have to wait for another day. I hope you will be with me on these future days of Marchy McFly 6 as we are now over the halfway part. There's now, this is episode 16. There are now only 15 episodes left. Wait a minute. I think I said yesterday that halfway through, 15 and a half. No, I was wrong. I thought yesterday was halfway through. Yesterday would have been the halfway mark, but it's halfway through today because 15 and a half. So about 15 minutes ago, we reached the halfway point, and now we've passed it. And as I like to say, it's all downhill from here. But I hope you come with me on this journey down this hill valley. All right, get ready to drink tomorrow, my friends, because tomorrow is March 17th. I will be back talking more Back to the Future Part 2 with all of you, and I hope you will be sober enough to listen. But until then, you can follow me on all the socials at Geek Mentality, except TikTok, which is Geek Mentality Mike. The Facebook page is Fans.Experts. The YouTube channel is Fans.Experts. That's because the website is fansnotexperts.com. That's it. I am done. R.I.P. Matt Clark. R.I.P. George McFly in the fake world. R.I.P. Matt Clark in the real world. I will talk to you more about Back to the Future 2 tomorrow. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. 'Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode. Fans Not Experts.